Few summers ago, anyone could pretend to be a great listing agent. You'd throw a sign in the yard and put it on the MLS, and then voila, a ton of offers to sort through, all over asking price. You guys remember? Then agents would brag about selling the home in a day. In fact, maybe you were one of them. But did you really get top dollar for your seller? Would you even know if you did? If you've asked yourself those questions, this video is for you. But if you were confident in your results back then and totally incurious as to why those same strategies aren't working now, you'll probably want to go ahead and move on. No hard feelings. I'm Levi Jones, founder and head coach of Guerrilla Realty, and I want to give you the exact process we use to sell our listings fast, and we always make sure we get top dollar, and we have the numbers to prove it. We use this exact process to secure 114 listings in a single year, plus sell them in half the average DOM in our market, and net our sellers 2.7% more money. This isn't a veiled sales pitch for some tools or coaching setup. Just like the video, share it with your favorite listing agent, and comment below that you did. And once you do, I'll send you a private link to the full walkthrough with everything, scripts, tools, all the resources you need. Here's what we'll cover in this video. First, price versus traffic. Most agents drop the price when a listing doesn't get traction because that's the only tool they've ever been taught. But if you want to sell fast and for top dollar, you need a smarter strategy. Then we'll cover the 4 pillars of traffic. Once you understand that generating traffic is key, you have to know how to generate it. I'll cover the 4 pillars of traffic that we use and exactly how we generate more buyers for every listing. Then you have to know how to track your results. Imagine being able to walk into every single listing appointment knowing that you are the best agent for the job and having the numbers to prove it. I'll give you my personal agent scorecard so you can track what's working, tighten up what's not, and prove your value to every single client. Let's dive into a key strategy difference for real estate: price versus traffic. Many agents default to lowering the price to sell a home quickly, but that often shortchanges your clients and drags out the process at the same time. Instead, I want to share how focusing on traffic can help you get top dollar for your listings in less time. All right, so we have got to start by agreeing on a basic fact. And the basic fact is this: sellers really only want 2 things. Okay? Every seller, no matter what they tell you, whatever their motivation is for selling, they fall into these 2 categories. The first category is that they want to sell as fast as possible. And then the second category is that they want to net as much money as possible. How you balance those will depend on the seller. Some people they're willing to hold out and let it sit on the market and they net more money. Others don't care. They got to get out of it. They're desperate and they're willing to not net as much money. But those are the 2 things that all sellers care about. In fact, even if they tell you other stuff like, oh, I want it to go smoothly, I want this or that or this or that. If you can take care of these 2 things, you have served your clients well. The problem is most agents actually help their sellers do neither of these things. And here's why. Let's examine the typical real estate marketing. It looks something like this, and maybe it's familiar to you. You don't have to admit it if it is, but you upload the property to the MLS, then you spam your Facebook friends, and then you twiddle your thumbs. This is the typical real estate agent, what they do when it comes to real estate marketing. Maybe they even pay for great photos to be taken. Now, here's the bonus. The bonus is that they spam their Twitter or Instagram friends as well. And you look, it doesn't work. This is what the average Facebook post looks like. The grandma is the only one who likes it, a little pity like for you. And we've been there. That's why I can take this screenshot. This isn't me, but you guys get the idea. You get very minimal social interest. And you actually wonder, is my marketing doing anything? And the answer is probably not. Okay. We're going to fix that today. But if this is you, understand you are not alone. This is actually the typical real estate agent. So we'll talk sort of Econ 101, supply and demand when it comes to real estate. But let's start with the idea of a reasonable range of value. Instead of there being a fixed price for a house, the reality is that home prices are relatively elastic. It's not like going down to the grocery store and seeing, hey, a carton of eggs is $4, or a couple of months ago it was $8. You have egg money? um, there is a reasonable range of value for a home. And this is the range whereby, as long as you're within this, most people would say that neither the seller or the buyer necessarily got a good, they both got a good deal. No one got screwed in the process. Okay. And, it typically might look something like this. At the low end of the pricing, and again, this is just an example of a recent CMA that we did. At 370,000, you would need fewer buyers to come look at the house to fetch that price. Again, with a fixed supply, there's one house. If the demand is relatively low, the price is relatively low. At an average price, we would need an average amount of demand, or an average number of buyers to come look at this house in order to get an offer submitted. And then at a high amount of demand, in other words, a lot of buyers came and saw it, we can potentially fetch a higher price. Again, this is simple supply and demand. And typically, this is going to follow the days on market timeline. So in other words, in a short amount of time, because we're not doing anything special with regards to marketing, the demand stacks up incrementally over time. So if we want a short days on market, we got to go a low end price. If we want a high price, we got to wait a long time. Okay. Because we have to incrementally stack that demand. We have to get more and more people seeing it over time in order to fetch the price that we're trying to get. Okay. So this is how typically agents market the property. They don't actually do anything to drive demand. They simply manipulate the price. They either have they lower the price, in which case they cost their client money, or they raise the price rather, in which case we go to the end of the days on market and we cost the client time. And here's the thing, here's the secret. If this has been you, you are interchangeable. It does not take any special amount of skill, or it doesn't take anything to manipulate the price. Okay. So I'm going to suggest that we can actually manipulate the demand. We can manipulate the traffic. What if, instead of that previous graphic, what if we were able to get high-end amount of traffic in a low days on market? What if it looked like that? So we could fetch the high price because we have a high demand, but that high demand came at a short amount of time. We didn't have to wait for it to stack up incrementally. That's what we're going to talk about when we talk about generating traffic. Now that we know traffic is the key to top dollar, let's dive into the 4 pillars of traffic that will flood your listings with buyers. These are the exact channels I use to double showings and sell homes fast without slashing prices. Let me break them down for you. There's basically 4 pillars that we focus on to drive traffic. Now, the first is the MLS. And the MLS, you're going to put the property on. The key to the MLS is this is the way that you let agents know that your property is for sale, how great it is. This is how you drive agents to show the property. Okay. The second is on online searches. The reality is lots and lots of consumers, they're not on individual real estate websites. They're on the big search engines like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, etc. And so you have to maximize your traffic from these sources as well. And then we have social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. We want to not just throw up a post, spam it, hope our grandma likes it, but we actually want to be intentional about getting traffic, getting eyeballs to see the property and generate showings from that. And then finally, we want to maximize our traffic on drive-by. In other words, we want to, when people drive by the property, we want them to say, I have to go look at that thing. Okay. And there are some specific things that we're going to do to tackle each of these 4 pillars of traffic. All right. So pillar number 1 is the MLS. And understand, we use MLS as a title. It's a stand-in for how do we get agents to see this listing. We need it to stand out. We need them to be enticed to come show this property to their buyers. We know buyer agents sell houses ultimately. So how do we tackle this particular pillar? And the way that we do that is very simple. We bribe them. Okay. We're going to install a 4% buyer agent commission for every one of our listings. In fact, when we When we listed 114 homes in a single year, 90% of them were at 4% or higher because we offered this 4% bribe. Now, again, there's nothing magic about 4%. If the norm in your market is 2%, maybe you can do the same bribe at 3%. And we're going to have paid for this by raising the price. Okay, so it's not just coming straight out of your seller's pocket. They're going to ultimately net more money and still sell the home quickly because we're going to artificially drive demand, sell it quickly, and pay for that by still fetching a higher price at a low DOM. Now, some of you are already, maybe you're about to click off on the video because you're going, oh, well, this must be old because you can't advertise your buyer agent commission on the MLS. You are absolutely right. You cannot, but you can advertise it everywhere else. In fact, it's explicitly in the settlement that you can advertise it basically anywhere except for the MLS. Great. So we're going to do that. So how do we do that? First of all, we're going to blast an email to the entire MLS. Okay. If you didn't know, you can actually call your MLS up and say, hey, I'd like to download the list of emails. And you can actually you can do email marketing. Some of you may already be even doing this with your listings. Now you actually have something that's going to stand out. When you send out an email to your entire MLS and you say, hey, I'm paying a premium commission for this property. And by the way, it's a great property. Here's some photo, that whole thing. You are going to get lots and lots of people emailing you back like, hey, when can I show it? Or as soon as I have a buyer, I'm going to show it to them. You would be amazed at how effective this is. And in fact, I'd even argue that your NAR did you a favor by prohibiting it from the MLS. And I know that sounds crazy, but now many agents aren't advertising buyer agent commission at all, or some sellers aren't even offering it. So when you offer a premium, it is going to absolutely make your property stand out. It's going to drive demand like nobody's business. Then we're going to put that buyer agent commission on a sign writer. I actually had my most recent listing sold because of this sign writer, and I'm not exaggerating. They actually my listing was outside of their buyer's price range. They didn't even see it come up on the search, but they happened to be going across the street, a listing across the street, and they saw the buyer agent commission. The agent was like, hey, maybe we should just go look at it. You can imagine why. And so they went and looked at my house. It was a little bit outside their price range, but they ended up getting qualified for it and putting an offer in. It sold because of the sign writer that we had up advertising the buyer agent commission. Then we go in there and we have a single property website. And that single property website will always have a little nugget right there, front and center. Hey, we offer 4% buyer agent commission as a bribe. Okay. Then we do a video tour. In the video tour, I'll actually link to a video up top. The video tour will have our 4% bribe on the tour, like overlaid on the listing as we show it. But I'll link to a quick video where you can create a video tour without having to have all sorts of fancy equipment or know anything about video marketing. We did it a few weeks ago, and I'll link it. Finally, we include the buyer agent commission on all of our social ads. So everywhere where it goes out, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., we're going to advertise that we're offering this bribe. And guess what? Buyer agents love it. They love you for talking to your sellers, and if they have a buyer who's even slightly interested, you can bet it's going to be on showing list. Pillar number 2 is online search. And when I mean online search, I'm not talking about individual agent websites. I'm talking about the big boys: Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin, etc. And you might be going, well, what does this do? Well, you can actually affect how many leads you generate from these sources, but also you can affect what kind of traffic that they drive directly to your home. Zillow less so, because Zillow is actually now registered as a broker in most MLSs, and so they get a direct feed of your properties from the MLS. There's very little control over it, but the rest of them, you actually have some effect on their listing. Okay. First of all, we always want to include, and this is for Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin. you can't actually affect this on Zillow, but we want to include 10 photos or less. And you might be going, why? Well, the reason is we want this customer or we want potential customers to be really interested in the property, but we want to maximize curiosity. We don't want to give them everything because we want to be able to, we want them to be interested and then go left wanting a little bit, right? And so we want to give them the ways to get the rest of the information and drive leads that way. Okay. And so the way that we do that is we drive the leads with a call to action. It might say something like free video, full photos, text this code to this phone number. Okay. And we use an SMS autoresponder, but you could also just use your cell phone that way. And if you overlay it on top of the initial photo that you upload to realtor.com or Trulia or wherever, now instead of just showing all those agents and driving the leads to some other agent who's, let's be honest, probably not going to be all that motivated, that half of them don't even get responded to. Actually saw a statistic recently that said like some absurd percentage of leads don't even get followed up with. Instead of that, we actually get to make sure we're connecting, we're getting top billing with our seller. And this is also where we can use our video tour. Again, the video tour can be created at listingcake.com. I already linked to a video, but the video tour is not only going to have our buyer agent commission, but it's also going to be used as bait. So we can say, hey, free video tour, text this code to this number. Guess what? Now we're connecting with all those buyers, potential buyers from the Realtor.coms, the Trulias, the Redfins of the world. Social is a big pillar for us. In fact, it's one of the things that we specialize in. And I'm going to go beyond just, hey, throwing it up on Facebook or Instagram. We're going to do it in such a way that we generate lots and lots of traffic and we generate lots and lots of leads from every listing that we have. So first things first, we're going to post it to Craigslist. I'm going to link to a full playbook where we cover exactly what our ads look like on Craigslist. We did a video on it a little while ago. Click the link, check it out. Then we post it on Facebook Marketplace. Again, I'm not going to go into the whole details as far as exactly how we post it on Facebook Marketplace, but we maximize our traffic on Facebook Marketplace. And I'll link to the full walkthrough that we did on a video a couple of weeks ago right there. And then we use something we call our up circulating playbook. This is where we maximize our traffic. We don't get the pity like from grandma. We get 20 plus shares on every single time. It goes semi-viral when we post a property on Facebook. We maximize our traffic on that. Again, I'll link to our up circulating process, exactly how we make every post on Facebook go viral. And no, we don't have thousands and thousands of followers on our personal Facebooks. Then we post it to Twitter just to make sure we're covering all of our bases. And this is what, and again, this is what a recent up circulating post looks like. We got 30 shares. We got a ton of likes, hearts, all that kind of stuff. None of that matters by itself, except it is sort of proof of engagement that we are getting eyeballs and we're maximizing the traffic on the social pillar. I mentioned before how drive-by traffic actually sold one of my recent listings. But what if your drive-by traffic, instead of the signage and the property getting a yawn by everybody who drove by, what if you actually maximized your traffic because you focused on it? You didn't just throw up the company sign that nobody looks at, doesn't get you any leads. What if instead you had a standout sign? And again, I'll actually show you an example of a sign that design that we use on all of our listings now that had a very clear call to action. Okay. And by that, I mean, hey, you can get this information if you text this code to this number. Hey, now you're going to start generating some leads from your sign. Okay. And what if you had the text autoresponder? So you didn't actually have to, call everybody. And by the way, it's much more important to have a call to action that goes to some sort of lead capture, passive lead capture, than saying, hey, call me. people are unwilling. They're hesitant to call real estate agents because they're afraid of getting sold. But they're absolutely willing to get more information about that property by texting a code to a number, something like that. And that's what our text autoresponder does. So let me show you an example of a for sale sign design. We have information about the property. You'll notice it doesn't have my big mug on it. And because we're not selling me, we're selling the house. And so I put information about the house. It has social and authority proofing, meaning it has my other people, what other people think of me on my Facebook page. It has, very familiar logos and designs from Fair Housing, the National Association of Realtors. And then most importantly, it has this very clear call to action where it says for pricing, photos, and a video tour, text this code to this number. That is set up with a text autoresponder. So as soon as they text that code, not only do I capture that information, AKA generate leads, but it then delivers that information to the potential buyer. Great marketing is only half the battle. You need to prove your results. That's where tracking comes in. I'm going to share my agent scorecard system that shows exactly how much value you're adding for your clients so you can stand out and win more listings. Here's how it works. So I made a pretty outrageous claim at the beginning of this video where I said our team listed 114 listings in a single year. And of those listings, we listed most of them at 4%. But here's the thing that we did that's outrageous. We sold in half of the days on market. We sold those listings on average in half of the average days on market in our area. And we netted our sellers 2.7% more money. How the heck do we know that? Well, we use this agent scorecard. We track all of our listings, and this is the last few on this agent scorecard. And this tells us the good or bad results that we have, okay? So we look up the average closed price for properties in the market segment that we are selling in. And then we put our average closed price, or not average closed price, we put the closed price of the property, okay? The scorecard does the rest of the math, which is it tells us how much value we gained for our customer, the percentage value, et cetera. And then we do the same thing for average DOM for the area. Again, we calculate the average DOM for the particular market segment, and then we put how long this property was on the market. So for the 323 Whitney right there at the top, the average days on market is 31 days. We sold this property in 11 days. By the way, during that time, we generated 148 leads from that property through the various pillars. And we had, more than half, 64% off of the DOM, and we netted our seller, in this case, 21% more money with that particular, home sale. Now, not all of them, we have that great of a result, but then we can average it out. Imagine if you were to take this scorecard with your last listings and you were to say, hey, this is what I bring to the table when you're in your listing appointment. I guarantee you will not you won't lose a listing appointment because not only do you have a solid marketing plan that's going to artificially drive traffic to your listing, but then you're going to have the numbers to back it up. Now, I'm going to include this agent scorecard, a link to it in the full walkthrough. I hope this video gives you some clarity on exactly what you can do to serve your listing clients and get them top dollar. Or maybe you can even change course on a current listing that may be difficult to sell. Either way, we'd love to hear about it. Now, I gave you the short overview in this video, but I want to make sure you have the full walkthrough with links to the agent scorecard, scripts we use, as well as everything else you need to implement it. Just like this video and share it. Once you comment below that you did, I'll send you a private link to the full resource. And if you found this video helpful, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate it. We release 2 videos a week with ideas just like this. See you next time.
Look, we've doubled our real estate business 3 times since 2019. If you want the full breakdown, exact scripts, step-by-step processes, and our brand new tool, drop a comment below.
No gimmicks, no paywalls. We're sending it completely free because we know it works.
Just type "send it" in the comments and we'll get it to you ASAP.
And if this was helpful, stick with us. We're dropping more strategies twice a week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.